Hey, Dad, welcome to Child Custody 101, brought to you by unionofdads.com. My name is David Pizarra, and I'm a divorce and child custody lawyer. I've been fighting for dads for about 20, 25 years now in the state of California. So my knowledge is based in California, and that's what this course is going to be based on. But the reality is, this is supposed to be an overview course. I want to talk to you about vocabulary and concepts. Here's the basics, the broad strokes of what child custody means for most people. And the point of this course is to get you to understand that there's some areas that are really crucial for you to know what your rights are, and more importantly, what your rights aren't. And there's a lot of times that people think they know what the law is, they think they know what their rights are, they assume things, and the reality is frequently they're wrong. And so I want to dispel a lot of those myths, and I want to help you understand where you stand today. And so we're going to start with a very basic question that happens in every family law consultation. Are you married or are you single? And the reason why is because married people, y'all got very different rules and rights and obligations than single people. Now, married people, when it comes to child custody, have a whole host, a whole shopping list of things that are automatically determined when a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, when they're married, have a child. But that's not the case when you're single. If you're married, you automatically have joint physical custody. You automatically have joint legal custody. And I'll go into what those mean in a little bit. But if you're single, you don't have those rights automatically. If you're single, if you're just dating somebody, if you're boyfriend, girlfriend, or boyfriend, boyfriend, or girlfriend, girlfriend, the reality is you probably don't have the rights that you think you do. But Dave, I signed the birth certificate. I know my daughter's my daughter. Great. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you have that confidence. Signing the birth certificate doesn't give you what you think it gives you. But Dave, I signed the voluntary declaration of paternity. I know I'm the dad. Johnny is definitely my son. That's awesome, dude. I'm glad that you know Johnny is your son. That doesn't mean what you think it means, because the birth certificate, the voluntary declaration of paternity, those are used primarily just to make sure there's someone to pay child support. That's what they're there for. They're not there so much to make sure that you get every other weekend and a pizza dinner. What they're there for is to make sure that if something happens to mom, we know who's going to take care of this kid. That if mom needs child support, if she's going on welfare or food stamps or getting WIC or getting some of the other state aid, the state knows who to go after to reimburse them for it. That's what you get with a birth certificate and a voluntary declaration of paternity. Now, what that means is you've got to go into court and start asking the court to determine that you are legally determined to be the father of either the child of the child, one way or another. You're asking the court to determine child custody of that child and determine that you are one of the parents. And so when we're looking at that, the question is, what is child custody? And child custody breaks down into two really big areas. There's a big, giant area called legal custody. And legal custody has to do with, where's the kid going to go to school? Who's going to make determinations for doctor's appointments? Who's going to say it's okay for the child to get a vaccine? Who's going to say that it's okay for the child to have dental care or psychiatric care if they're going to a therapist, or some type of tutoring because they need extra schooling? They're going to determine what church or temple or synagogue or whatever religious, spiritual facility people go to. That's what's determined with legal custody. And those are important decisions that mom and dad should be making together. And they should have at least an agreement on where people are going to be going, where the child's going to be going to school, who the doctors are going to be. But the reality is this: If you've just got a birth certificate signed, if you've just signed the voluntary declaration of paternity, you don't have the rights you think you do. Mom's got sole legal custody there, and she's going to make the determinations of where all that's going to happen. And so, what do you have to do? You have to go to court and have a judge decide yes, you are the father, you have joint legal custody, you get a 50% interest in terms of deciding what's going to happen with this child. Now, the other big giant area of child custody is physical custody. And physical custody has to do with where's the child living? Whose house are they spending the night at? Who's got actual day to day care of the child? And obviously, we start with mom gets sole physical custody at birth because we know for a fact that the child has come from mom. Dad, even if he signs the birth certificate, doesn't necessarily have physical custody because let me tell you, if you try and take that child and you go out of the hospital, someone's calling the cops on you, and you say, "But I signed the birth certificate," trust me, they're going to say, "Give the kid back to mom." Physical custody has to do with the actual physical care of the child. And so, again, this is one of those areas where you've got to have a court order that says you have joint physical custody, meaning you have a joint legal right to have that child in your care, that you are legally entitled to take care of that child and have them in your possession, travel with them, live with them. Those are very important rights that need to be detailed out in writing. Now, once we're done with those two big areas, now we've figured out like we've got legal custody, which has to do with all of the mental, the physical, or the medical, the dental, the schooling decisions. We got physical custody with where's the child going to sleep at night, what school are they going to go to because it's going to be close to where they live. Those are physical custody issues. We got to decide, is this going to be a sole physical custody or a joint physical custody, a sole legal custody or a joint legal custody case? And the reason why we say that is because one parent can be awarded the entire rights under legal custody and all of the rights under physical custody. And that's generally where we start with moms at birth if we're not married. Now, the difference here is with sole legal custody, that means mom can pick up and move to another state. Mom can move to a different part of the same state. Mom can decide what school the kids are going to, what doctors are going to see. She's got sole legal and physical custody. You, as a dad, if you're trying to figure out what my rights are, unless you've gone to court, you don't have those rights under physical custody and legal custody just because you signed the birth certificate. That does not give you the rights that you think it does. You need to go into court and get a court order. Once we're done with figuring out whether or not you're going to share those rights equally with mom, which most people do. The truth of the matter is, most people end up with joint legal custody because courts look at it and recognize that there's no reason why a competent parent shouldn't be able to participate in the upbringing of their child. And a court's going to look at it and say, listen, if dad's good enough to pay child support, dad should have the right to know what's going on with that child. They should have the right to know what's going on at school. They should have the right to know what's going on with the doctors and the doctor's appointments. So we're going to give dad and mom joint legal custody and have them share that responsibility, which means that you have to work with mom to coordinate what those decisions are going to be, what that information is going to be, when those appointments are going to happen, because otherwise, mom's going to have sole legal and just run with the ball. And the same thing with physical custody. There's no reason why a parent who is expected to pay child support, who is a competent, non addicted, capable individual, should have physical custody of their child. Both of those are areas where if you meet the bare minimum of being a competent human being, you should be entitled to joint legal and joint physical custody. After all, you're responsible enough to make a child, you probably ought to be responsible enough to care for a child. And so when we're looking at joint legal or sole legal or joint physical or sole physical, the way in which that those get lost, the way in which one party only gets sole legal or sole physical is generally if there's some problem with the other parent. Usually it's either a mental health issue or it could be a drug addict or substance abuse addiction. If there's a drug addict or an alcoholic, those can be issues. But generally, most parents, when they go into court, you're going to walk out of court with some version of joint legal and joint physical custody. Once we figure that part out, now the question is, what's the parenting plan going to look like? So you guys have joint physical custody and joint legal custody. Now we have to figure out what's the weekend going to look like? What are the day-to-day operations of having this child in our lives, taking care of them, getting them to school, getting them to practices, getting them to school events, getting them to play dates? What's that going to look like? So when we're customizing a parenting plan, we're taking a look at all of the things that are going on with the child, their schooling, their after school activities. Do they have special needs? Are they a spectacular athlete? And that means that we need to really concentrate on their going to practices on a regular basis because maybe they've got a possibility of becoming an Olympic athlete. All of that stuff gets customized in a parenting plan. And we're combining your schedule, your work schedule, your day-to-day schedule, mom's work schedule, mom's day-to-day schedule, the child's school schedule, their after school schedule, how far apart everybody is when they're where they live. All of that comes in to customizing a parenting plan. And this is where we're looking at, well, the child may live with mom Monday to Friday, and mom and dad are going to alternate weekends where the child's going to go to dad on one weekend, and then the next weekend they'll be with mom. And usually, when that happens, there's like a midweek visitation or parenting time that's determined. But those can be customized, that can be changed depending on the child's age or how close you guys live to each other or how far apart you live. Sometimes what will end up happening is there'll be the child will be with mom and dad on what's called a 2-2-3 schedule, where they're 2 days with mom and then 2 days with dad, then 3 days with mom, and then it rotates. So it's 2 days with dad and 2 days with mom and 3 days with dad. And that's a 2-2-3 schedule. Sometimes we have week on, week off schedules. So there's all different ways to customize a parenting plan. Sometimes it's during the school year, they spend the entire school year with one parent, and then all the breaks are spent with another parent. Whatever's going to work that's in the best interest of the child and with the parent schedules is what we can customize and what you need to customize to fit your parenting plan to fit your child's best interest. Once we've got a parenting plan in place, we have to then enforce it. And this is where it becomes generally either a really easy thing because you guys are in agreement, it's written up, like here's the deal. Dad, you're getting this schedule, mom, you're getting that schedule, and it's up on either like Our Family Wizard or maybe Talking Parents, which are computer programs that allow schedules to be put online so everybody can access it. And that's a parenting plan that can be enforced very casually. Sometimes it needs to be enforced a little bit more severely. Mom's not playing right, dad's not playing right. Now we're looking at exchanges at the police station to make sure that there's proof that either an exchange did happen or exchange didn't happen. That's one of those things that unfortunately does happen. But when you're enforcing a parenting plan, sometimes you have to go through that process to get the proof that mom or dad is not playing according to the parenting plan and maybe it needs to be changed. Sometimes when that enforcement is necessary, you end up having to create a record of the times that it was not properly complied with, that either mom or dad denied visitation or denied a return. And when that happens over time, then you go in front of a judge and you try and do what's called a contempt action so that you can show to the judge that the other side is not following the parenting plan, but they need to. And when that happens, the judge may look at it and may make a change in custody or may, metaphorically wrap each parent or either parent sort of on the knuckles with like, listen, you guys have an agreement. You need to start abiding by the agreement. And that can be an important part of the judge's role in all of this is to sort of like make sure everybody plays according to the rules. So I've mentioned a couple other courses. I've mentioned things here. Yeah. I've mentioned a couple things here with contempt. I've mentioned things with enforcement and discovery and Our Family Wizard and Talking Parents. And those are all tools. Yeah. Okay, so that's the broad strokes of Child Custody 101. If you want to learn more about that, we've got Dad's Law School. And in Dad's Law School, we have several courses that help people understand what's going on. And if you've got a hearing coming up in the next let's say, 8 weeks, and you've got to get some paperwork filed in front of the judge, you've got to get going real quick, I recommend you check out Dad's Child Custody Action Plan. It's our starter course in Dad's Law School. It teaches you what you need to show to the judge that you're a great dad, because you can't just walk in and say, I'm a great dad. You have to walk in and show to the judge why you're a great dad, how you're a great dad. You have to be able to prove to the judge that you're an active and engaged parent. Because if you're going in front of a judge, that means there's a contest here between you and mom about visitation and custody and parenting time. Mom's probably not going to be your biggest cheerleader, because if she was, you wouldn't be going to court. Mom's probably going to be saying, he's a negligent parent. He doesn't know what's going on with the kids. He lives too far away. He can't have time with the children. He shouldn't be allowed to have time with the children because, and list all these reasons. Well, you have to go in and counter all of that. You have to explain to the judge why you do live close to mom and why you do live close to the school and how you are actually a great parent and you are engaged with the child at school and you are engaged with the child's medical care and you know what's going on with them and you know how to handle their meltdowns. These are all the things we teach in Dad's Child Custody Action Plan. If you've got a little bit more time and you want to do some research, you can do discovery. And part of discovery is getting the records from the school, getting records from mom, combining all of the email messages and the text messages, getting bank records for child support issues. Because if we've got child custody, we've probably got child support issues. And in Discovery 101, we go through how to get the other side to respond to requests for admissions, to admit certain things. We cover how to get subpoenas. You know the proof exists, but how do you get that proof? You've got to be able to show to the judge what mom's really making or what's really happening at school, how to get those medical records to prove what's really going on. And all of that's covered in Discovery 101. Once you have the evidence, now you've got to learn how to actually use the evidence. It's one thing to have the proof, it's another thing to actually be in a courtroom and get a judge to understand that this is what it really means. And here's the impact it's having on the child's life. And this is why you need to make the ruling that I'm asking you to make, Your Honor. And so we cover that in Evidence 101. It's a longer form course. It covers how to use exhibits, how to get exhibits moved into evidence. It's a deeper dive into what's going on in an actual courtroom. And lastly, when you finally have those court orders that you fought so hard for, you come to an agreement, but the other side's not complying. The other side's ignoring the court orders. The other side's making it difficult for you to see your child. We cover that in Contempt 101. And that's a course that breaks down how do you actually take somebody to court and prove to the judge in a very rigorous way that the other side is violating court orders. And Your Honor, you need to either put them in jail, fine them, or change custody. That's what we teach in Contempt 101. All four of those courses are called Dad's Law School. It's the four essential courses if you're going to be going into family court. And you get those when you join the Union of Dads today. You're going to get all access in Dad's Law School. You get all four courses, plus you get email access to me if you have additional questions. Plus, we have twice a month meetups where you can ask questions and get answers for about these topics, about these courses. So it's an opportunity for you to take the course, prepare your file, prepare your documents, get feedback from me on what's the strategy you should be using. How should this actually be presented to the judge so that you can at least make the best representation of yourself going into court. It also comes with sample documents and templates. When you sign up for Union of Dads and you take our courses come with sample documents such as the request for admissions, such as the declaration that you need to file with the judge to show the judge that you're a great dad. That is Union of Dads and Dads Law School. Thank you for watching Child Custody. I really hope you have the opportunity to go join us at Union of Dads, where we teach you how to make the best representation of yourself going into court that you can. We seek to educate, empower, and entertain dads. Our twice a month meetups are designed to give you not only the education you need to represent yourself, but also to provide some emotional support because dads who are going through this frequently need the support of other dads who are going through this. Hope that helps. Have a great day. And remember, I think you're freaking awesome.